He had a Harvard degree. He was considered a genius in business. He transformed a gas company into one of the most valuable empires in the United States. Magazines called him a visionary. Employees admired him. Investors trusted blindly. In 2001, this empire collapsed in weeks. Thousands lost their jobs, the savings of a lifetime. And when forensic psychologists analyzed the case, they came to a disturbing conclusion. The men in charge were not only ambitious, they were psychopaths. And the scariest thing is that no one noticed until it's too late. Welcome to Psyche Obscure. Today we are going to enter the world of the corporate psychopath, the one who doesn't carry a knife, but it can destroy thousands of lives. With a signature. The Enron case. 1985, Houston, Texas. Enron was born as a natural gas company. In a few years, under the leadership of Kenneth Lay and Jeffrey Skilling, becomes a giant, trading billions in energy. Skilling, who graduated from Harvard, had an aggressive vision. The company didn't need real assets. I needed numbers that looked good on paper. He implemented a performance evaluation system, known internally as rank and yank. The employees with the worst evaluation were fired each period, creating a culture of fear, brutal competition, and dishonesty. Behind the billions in reported profits, there was a network of ghost companies, created to hide debts and inflate results. In 2001, fraud came to the fore. Enron broke in weeks. More than 20,000 jobs lost. Billions in pension funds have simply disappeared. When the case went to trial, forensic psychologists, including Robert Hare, creator of the most used psychopathy scale in the world, analyzed the behavior of the executives involved. The conclusion: at least 3 of them had traits consistent with clinical psychopathy. Kenneth Lay, Jeffrey Skilling, Andrew Fastow. What a corporate psychopath really is. When we think of psychopathy, the image that comes to mind, it's usually from a serial killer. But the vast majority of psychopaths never commit a violent crime. They find another way to exercise control. Power, money, and influence. Research shows that the presence of psychopathic trait increases as the hierarchical level in companies rises, being significantly more common among senior executives than in the general population. Why? Because the corporate environment rewards exactly the characteristics that define psychopathy: superficial charm, extreme trust, absence of guilt, willingness to take extreme risks, and an impressive ability to manipulate people. Psychologist Robert Hare summarizes directly: corporate psychopaths have perfectly intact cognition. They know exactly what they are doing. The difference is in emotions, or in their complete absence. The 5 phases of manipulation. Psychologist Paul Babiak, an expert in corporate psychopathy, mapped a recurring pattern, almost a manual, that corporate psychopaths follow to gain power within a company. 5 phases. Phase 1. Entry into the company. The psychopath enters with a calculated charm, impresses in interviews. It seems confident, visionary, exactly what the company is looking for. Phase 2. Study of the territory. He observes silently, identify who has power, who can be useful, who represents a threat, map the weaknesses and vanities of each person around. Phase 3. Manipulation of people and facts. Here, the game really starts. He builds strategic alliances, not for friendship, but for utility. Distorts information. Creates self-favorable narratives. Phase 4. Confrontation. When someone becomes an obstacle, the psychopath attacks through gossip, veiled sabotage, or blaming others. It's rarely direct, prefers to destroy reputations behind the scenes. Phase 5. Ascension. With the obstacles removed and the right allies in place, he takes power, and the cycle starts again on a larger scale. The most disturbing thing is that, throughout this process, colleagues and superiors often admire him. They think he's just ambitious or strategic. They don't realize that they are being pieces in a game. Why do they go up so fast? There is an inevitable question. If they cause so much damage, why do they continue to be promoted? The answer is how we evaluate leadership. Companies often confuse trust with competence, charisma with real capacity, boldness with good strategy. A study by Bond University in Australia revealed that the proportion of psychopaths in corporate leadership positions, it is comparable to the one found inside prisons. Psychopaths are especially skilled at looking exactly what an interview room wants to see. They read expectations and perform them perfectly. And in the short term, this works. Aggressive results, quick decisions, apparent success. The problem appears later, when the ethical structure that sustains a real company, it has already been corroded inside. The human cost, behind the numbers, the frauds, the scandals. There are real people. Enron employees not only lost their jobs, they lost their retirements invested entirely in the company's shares that they themselves were encouraged to buy, while the executives sold their own shares in secret. This is the classic pattern of the corporate psychopath. He doesn't hesitate to sacrifice other people to preserve one's own position. Survivors of environments led by corporate psychopaths often report symptoms similar to those of victims of psychological abuse: chronic anxiety, loss of self-confidence, emotional exhaustion, and a deep feeling of having been used. The difference is that this abuse happens inside offices, disguised as high-performance culture. How to identify. So, how to recognize a corporate psychopath before it's too late? Some consistent signs in the scientific literature. Intense initial charm, but superficial. Lacks emotional depth and connections. Inconsistent stories, different versions of the same facts, depending on who is listening. Stolen credit, transferred guilt. Successes are always his. Failures are always from others. Total absence of remorse, even in the face of obvious damage caused to colleagues or to the company. Manipulation through gossip and selective alliances, creating groups and dividing teams strategically. Great promises rarely fulfilled. There is always a new excuse. None of these isolated signs prove psychopathy, but when they appear together, forming a consistent pattern, the alert should sound. Enron was not an isolated case. It's a mirror of a system that rewards exactly the traits I should fear. Charisma without character, confidence without conscience, success built on people discarded on the way. Recognizing this pattern is not about paranoia, it's about protection. Next week, we will explore the case that changed forensic psychiatry forever. If this video opened your eyes to something, leave the like and activate the bell. The Obscure Psyche exists to go where it is difficult to look. See you next time.